God bless America.
Welcome to Davey Dave's Take. Today we are talking about Civil War, a film that I am sure will not upset anyone. So Civil War is about a civil war that takes place in the United States, not the one from the 1800s, but a fictional civil war that takes place in the future, and it's like a real ass all out war. Like, this war is no joke, it's a huge deal. There are some parts of the country that are kind of safe, but most of the parts of the country you can walk around and maybe get bombed, maybe get shot. It's a real problem. I first want to talk about Alex Garland, the guy who wrote and directed this film, because I have to give him some credit for having the balls to even make a film like this. He had to know when he was making this film he was going to piss off a lot of people. It was almost a lose-lose situation, but he wanted to make this film, and he did, and he said, fuck it, I'm going to do it. So I give him some respect for that, and I've liked his films in the past, but I'm pissed off at him because he's making me review this movie, and I honestly don't really want to because, like I said, there's just so much discourse around this film. The real world right now is just a shithole. It's clearly a film that's going to have a lot of strong reactions to it. And I went into the film being completely unbiased, not really knowing much about it, and just curious to see what Alex Garland has made. And to be honest, I really enjoyed this film. I thought this was a riveting, very suspenseful war movie. And that's what I really liked about the film. It just felt like a suspenseful war movie. It didn't feel like it was taking some big political stance one way or the other. Sure, you could say it's leaning definitely one way more than the other, but it's not really the point of the film. The movie isn't about how the conflict happened. It's really about the conflict itself and how it affects people, society, and everything. Because the film focuses on these four journalists that are trying to get to Washington, D.C., and it's about the things that they see, the things that they experience. So the film really feels more like a statement on war journalism rather than what's actually going on now. And I think when you watch the film from those eyes, it's riveting, it's super suspenseful, it's intense, and I thought it was really well done. It goes into what that profession does to you, how it affects you, and the drive you need to have to be really great at it. You gotta make some sacrifices, you gotta have a tough stomach, and I think the film illustrates that pretty well. But those four journalists all give great performances. I thought Kaylee Spaney was my favorite performance in the whole film. There's a lot she has to deal with, a lot that she's going through, a lot of development, and she crushes it. And I've been saying the film is intense and suspenseful, and it really is. There are some sequences here that are absolutely effective. There's some sequences where I started sweating. I could feel the anxiety coming over me because it felt so real. When I say real, I don't mean like the overall story. I mean there's a Texas and California alliance in this film. I think Alex Garland knew what he was doing when he wrote that. I more mean like the little details and the tone that this film is going for, how it feels more grounded and gritty when we get to those sequences. That's because when you're watching this film, it feels like you're really there. That's why it feels so tense and it feels like nowhere is safe. And that has to do with great filmmaking and a great sound design. I think Alex Garland crushed it when it came to the tone and the style this film is going for. Also, this film does have kind of a slow burn type of feeling. I feel like if you watched a trailer and you don't know who Alex Garland is, you might think this is this action-packed war movie. No, this film really focuses on the characters, those journalists, and some of the things that they're going through and how they deal with them. And I thought they made the movie better because it built up to a lot of things, especially the last act of the movie, which I thought was riveting. It reminded me of a certain mission in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. You probably know which one I'm talking about, but it felt like a realistic, grounded version of that. And for the most part, that sequence was pretty cool, but it goes into one of my issues with the film. It has to do with the ending. Don't worry, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it has to do with two of our main characters. There is some character development with one of them that I think is really well done, and what ultimately happens, I think makes sense. A reckless choice this character makes. I just think how it was shown and how it was portrayed just felt a little out of place for the grounded, realistic feeling this movie has. Like, I get story-wise why that happened. On paper, it sounds really great, but I think it could have been executed a little bit better. And then the last shot of the film is gonna piss a lot of people off. I don't know. I really don't know how I feel about it. But I gotta say, like I said before, Alex Garland, he's got the balls. He's definitely got balls to make a movie like this. Like, I'm just picturing him as Regina George when she's standing in the hallway in Mean Girls when everyone around her is just tearing each other apart. That's Alex Garland this weekend when this film is in theaters and he's just scrolling through Twitter in his LA mansion somewhere. Because he knows he made a film that's going to have a lot of discourse, a lot of conversation, a lot of controversy around it. Not because of the film itself, but just the idea of this film. But I think going into this film knowing it's not about how the conflict started, it's really about how this conflict is affecting people like these journalists. And I think it's more about how war affects people, especially people in this type of profession. But in the end, this was just a really well-made, intense movie about war, which I'm sure will open up some very friendly discussions online this weekend. I'm going to give Civil War 8 Davey Daves. There's also a choice throughout the film that I liked with the photographers where they take pictures of things and we get a quick snapshot of that picture. It almost feels like we're actually there witnessing like history, even though I know it's not real, but it was a nice little touch. So, Civil War, let me know what you guys thought of it once you've seen it. I'm curious to hear, and thank you so much for watching. Click here to see more of Davey Dave's Takes.